we begin.
I light this chalice to cast warmth to those around me and to those who are far away. I light this chalice to bring light to those who are in the dark and bring hope to those who need it. May this chalice make the world a little brighter.
Merry Christmas. That's the last April Fool's joke I'm going to do on you today. Because it's Easter, and Easter is always a confusing holiday for Unitarian Universalists, especially for Unitarian Universalist children. And years ago, a Unitarian Universalist minister, Dick Gilbert, wrote an open letter to actually at the time it was a Unitarian child. So I'm going to read that letter to you today. This is the letter he wrote in response to the question about what do Unitarian Universalists believe about Easter? You ask me what Unitarian Universalists believe about Easter. You are right in saying that we do not believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus, as some of your friends do, but you wonder what we do believe about this. First of all, Easter is a spring festival. Long ago, primitive people did not really know that spring would come again. They did not know about the seasons as we do. Many thought the winter would never end, like this one. So, when the days began getting longer, it was reason to celebrate. We too celebrate the coming of spring with the warmth and flowers and beauty it brings. It does seem that the earth is coming alive again. Our Jewish friends have a spring festival too. They call it Passover. It celebrates the escape of the Jewish people from Egypt over 3,500 years ago. Jesus had gone to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover when he was arrested and killed. Our Christian friends believe that on the third day after his death, he came alive again. Some of them believe that he actually left the tomb, visited his disciples, and then went to heaven. Others believe it was his spirit which arose. Easter is a time to think about life and death and what they mean. We do not know what comes after death, but one thing we do know. The memories of people we love live on long after they have died. You may remember someone, perhaps a grandmother or a grandfather who died, but whom you remember very well. This is what I think happened in Palestine 2,000 years ago. Jesus had been crucified on a wooden cross because some men were afraid he would overthrow the government and change their religious ways. His followers loved him so much that they could not forget him. Stories began to spread that so good a man could not be dead, that he must still be alive, that he has risen from the dead. In Palestine, so many years ago, they did not know about science and that dead things cannot come alive again. These followers of Jesus told miraculous stories about him so that everyone would know what a great man he was. Some who heard these tales wrote their own stories as they imagined his life and death. The Bible stories of Jesus rising from the tomb are a result. They were not meant to deceive anyone. They were meant to convince people that Jesus was a truly great man, that he was the Son of God. Today, we do not believe that these miraculous stories are really true, but they do show us what a strong influence Jesus had. And we do know enough about Jesus to admire him for living a fine life. He was a great and good man who taught people to love rather than to hate. I can't think of anything more important to teach or to learn. On Easter, Unitarian Universalists try to remember Jesus. This is what I think Unitarian Universalists believe about Easter. Sincerely, Richard S. Gilbert.
And good morning. Do it again. Good morning. Never fails. Welcome if you are here every Christmas or every Easter, or if this is your first time here, or if you have been here forever. We're glad that you are here, whatever your diversity, whatever is working or not working in your life. There are blue connection cards in the pews. That's a way to stay in touch with us. And after the service, please join us for community hour in the common room behind me. And on the way, there is a welcome table where you can find out a little bit more about First Parish and where you can tell us a little bit more about you. Let's see, how many of you are going to have a special meal today? Are you going to have a special meal? And what are you serving at that meal? Shout it out. Chinese. What is that? Chinese. Chinese. Okay, let me keep asking here. What else? What are you having besides? Ham. What time will that be, George? 7 o'clock, okay. Anybody have anything other than Chinese or ham? Nan?
Lemon rosemary chicken with fingerling potatoes.
Wow.
Pasta with butternut cream sauce.
Wow, and what time will that be? 4 p.m. This is going to be a good day. And let's see, we've got some Easter bonnets. There's an Easter bonnet over here. We've got others with Easter bonnets, wearing your Easter bonnets. If you've got an Easter bonnet, stand up and let's, applaud Easter bonnets. Yes. And lots of you are wearing new clothes for Easter, and it's all just a way of saying that we're glad to have survived the winter thus far, and maybe there's hope for the future, and we say, ah. And so on the count of 3, let us all say, ah. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Over here is our historic set of communion silver that goes back to the 18th century, and it normally lives and is kept in the Museum of Fine Arts, and we took it out for our Good Friday Tenebrae service, and it will be returned to the museum this week. But after the service, come up and look at the inscriptions on this silver, and feel free to pick it up and hold it and read the inscriptions. This was meant to be used, and this is part of our birthright as a congregation. Another piece of our birthright as a congregation is that this congregation is congregational in its governance, meaning that the members of this congregation are the ones that make all the decisions. I can assure you that the ministers do not make all the decisions around here. And we have nobody else to tell us what to do, but this congregation is owned by its members. And if you feel that this is your spiritual home, we invite you to consider being a member of First Parish and signing your name in our ancient membership book, and that's available after the service if you're ready to sign or if you have questions about it. In 2 weeks, on the 15th, we're going to welcome all of the new members of the class of 2018. And I think I have pretty much said what I came here to say. And so let's get on with the show. And Lo, the Earth Awakes Again is our hymn. It's number 61. join in the words of our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. So be it. You will notice on the first Sunday of the month, we donate half of our undesignated offering to the Margaret Barr Unitarian School in Shillong in Northeast India. This is way up in the Northeast. gooseneck of India between Bangladesh and Bhutan, and there are something like 50,000 Unitarians up in the state of Meghalaya, and this school is just a very important feature, and our support is a significant, in fact, almost the entirety of their teacher salaries. So I know you will be generous. These words come from the poet Carl Sandburg, who was, by the way, a Unitarian Universalist, and he at one time said, "You've got to settle on one church, throw your life into it, and build it up. Who would go to a picnic all the time and eat out of other people's baskets? Who would do such a thing? It's our obligation as members of one church to give ourselves to it. You've got to feel that you are part of the greatest organization on earth that is going to outlast all the rest of them. You've got to feel the importance of your own individual participation in its life." Have I told you that the First Parish in Bedford is the greatest organization in the entire earth, and you've got to throw yourself into it, and don't eat out of other people's picnic baskets, please. Freely we have received, freely give for the good work of this congregation within and far, far beyond our walls. Our offering will now gratefully be received. Badger was dependable, reliable, and always ready to help when help was needed. He was also very old. And he knew almost everything. Badger was so old that he knew he must soon die. Badger wasn't afraid of death. Dying meant only that he would leave his body behind. His body didn't work as well as it had in days gone by. Badger wasn't too concerned about that. His only worry was how his friends would feel when he was gone. Hoping to prepare them, Badger had told them that someday soon he would be going down the long tunnel, and hoped they wouldn't be too sad when it happened.
One day, as Badger was watching Raccoon and Frog race down the hillside, he felt especially old and tired. He wished more than anything that he could run with them, but he knew his old legs wouldn't let him. He watched Raccoon and Frog for a long time, enjoying the sight of his friends having a good time. It was late when he arrived home. He wished the moon good night, closed the curtains on the cold world outside. He made his way slowly down to the warm fire that was waiting for him deep underground. He had his supper. And then he sat down at his desk to write a letter. When he had finished, he settled down in his rocking chair near the fire. He gently rocked himself to and fro, and soon was fast asleep, having a strange yet wonderful dream like none he had ever had before.
Much to Badger's surprise, he was running. Ahead of him was a very long tunnel. His legs felt strong and sure as he ran towards it. He no longer needed his walking stick. So he left it lying on the floor of the tunnel. Badger moved swiftly, running faster and faster through the long passageway until his paws no longer touched the earth. He felt himself turning end over end, tumbling and falling, but nothing hurt. He felt free. It was as if he had fallen out of his body.
The following day, Badger's friends gathered anxiously outside Badger's door. They were worried because he hadn't come out to say good morning as he always did. Fox broke the sad news that Badger was dead and read Badger's note to them. It said simply, "Gone down the long tunnel. Bye-bye, Badger." All the animals had loved Badger, and everyone was very sad. Raccoon especially felt lost, alone, and desperately unhappy. In bed that night, Raccoon could think only of Badger. Tears rolled down his velvety nose, soaking the blankets he clung to for comfort.
Outside, it began to snow. Winter had begun. And soon, a thick layer of snow hid the animals' homes, where they would stay snug and warm during the cold months. The snow covered the countryside. But it didn't conceal the sadness that Badger's friends felt. Badger had always been there when anyone needed him. The animals all wondered what they would do now that he was gone. Badger had told them not to be unhappy, but that was a very hard thing to do.
As spring drew near, the animals often visited each other. They talked about the days when Badger was alive. Raccoon was good at using scissors. He told about the time Badger had taught him how to cut a chain of moles from a piece of folded paper. Paper moles had littered the ground that day. Raccoon remembered the joy he'd felt when he had finally succeeded in making a complete chain of moles with all the paws joined.
Frog was an excellent skater. She recalled how Badger had helped her take her first slippery steps on the ice. Badger had gently guided her across the ice until she had gained enough confidence to glide out on her own.
Fox remembered how, when he was a young cub, he could never knot his tie properly until Badger showed him how. Starting with the wide end of the tie, it's right over left, once around to the back, up, then down through the crossover, and holding the back of the tie, push the knot up to the neck. Fox could now tie every knot ever invented, and some he'd made up himself. And of course, his own necktie was always perfectly knotted.
Badger had given Mrs. Rabbit his special recipe for gingerbread and had shown her how to bake gingerbread rabbits. Mrs. Rabbit was well known throughout the countryside for her excellent cooking. As she talked about her first cooking lesson with Badger so long ago, she could almost smell the wonderful fragrance of gingerbread fresh from the oven.
Each of the animals had a special memory of Badger, something he had taught them that they could now do extremely well. He had given them each something to treasure, a parting gift that would become all the more special each time it was passed on to others.
As the last of the snow melted, so did the animal's sadness. Whenever Badger's name was mentioned, someone remembered another story that made them all smile.
One warm spring day, as Raccoon was walking on the hillside where he'd last seen Badger, he wanted to thank his friend for his parting gift. "Thank you, Badger," he said softly, believing that Badger would hear him. And somehow, Badger did.
Yay.
We know that everyone has time in their lives when someone they love or a great teacher of theirs leaves, dies. And sometimes those special people leave behind something they have taught us also. So, we have little cards that are going to be coming around to you soon, and they say, thank you. And there's a space for you to write someone special's name. And then it says, for giving me the gift of, and there's a space for you to write the special thing that they taught you that you carry with you now and can pass on to someone else. And we're not going to collect these. We invite you to take them home with you and perhaps put them right next to a photo of that special person in your life, or put it in a special place. And we're going to have a few moments of quiet and music while cards are being passed out, so that you can think of that person and write something down if you'd like. And then we'll have a time for sharing, so that you can share with us something, a parting gift that you received from someone special in your life. My friend Dory Senghas taught me how to meditate. And that was the most special gift that I try and remember. And John and Lisa Perrywood have microphones that they are going to walk around, and if you raise your hand and have something that you would like to share about a parting gift that someone gave you, they'll come and bring the microphone to you.
Thank you, Papa, for giving me everything. Thank you, Sophie, for giving me the gift of playing.
Thank you, Mariana and William, for giving me the gift of motherhood.
Thank you, my dad's grandfather, for giving me the gift of love. Thank you, God, for giving me the gift of life and love.
And I'm going to give thanks to my mother, Peb, for her gifts of tolerance and positive grace.
Thank you, Sylvia, for my name.
Thanks to my great Aunt Miriam for teaching me to memorize Psalms, which we did together.
Thank you, Liana, for the gift of Olivia.
Ella wants to thank her grandma for teaching her to sing the Five Little Pumpkins song.
I'd like to thank my Aunt Fran for teaching me how to tell a good story.
Thank you, Drew, for giving me the gift of an urgency to reach out and connect with the people around me.
Thank you, Paris, for the gift of joy.
Thank you, Anna and Dad and Mom, my Valentines.
Thank you to my mom for the gift of kindness and teaching me the importance of kindness.
Thank you to Marge Heckman for bringing me to this church.
Grazie, Nonna Rosa, for giving me a very interesting character.
Thank you, Grandma, for giving me the gift of beautiful poems.
Thank you, Deborah Big Red Cotton, for inspiring me to be a voice for justice, for woman power, and for love of life.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Oh, one more.
One more. Thanks to my grandmother for showing me the importance of belief in others, especially when they're in need.
I'd like to invite you all to join in singing our last hymn, number 404, What Gift Can We Bring?
Hi, good morning. In case you didn't know, my name is Pam and I'm a teacher. And one thing about teachers is we have a special connection to leprechauns, Santa Claus, what else? Santa Claus. And we also know this person called the Easter Bunny. So, I wanted to let you know that the senior youth group was outside and they noticed something all over the place. And there are a bunch of eggs out there. So, if you didn't bring your basket, I have our portable antique baskets here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it in shifts. So if you are 5 and under, you get to go first. And all of the eggs that have smiley faces on it have stuff that you can be using for school, like erasers and stamps and stuff like that. The bigger kids, that's you, John, do not go running out until later, will go in the next wave. So 5 and under, you can kind of get up and shuffle on, wait a minute, after the end of church, you can get up, shuffle on out. Now stay, you know the boards that go around the common? Well, all the eggs are on the inside near the church. Stay away from the streets. The bunny didn't go out there. So they're hidden all over the place. Look up in the trees, look in the flowers, look all over the place and enjoy yourself. Try to limit. Not yet. Try to limit your eggs to not more than 10-ish. That's this many, 10-ish. Thank you.
Now for our closing words. A man stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved them know what that little line was worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we spend, we live and love, and how we spend our dash. As we leave our faith community today, may this be all we ask, that we act upon our UU values as we spend each day of our dash.